welcome. It's now story time with Papa B. I got my music being worked on, so next time, hopefully by tomorrow, my music will be ready so I can have my good intro. But I have come here tonight to do story time with Papa B. Now, this is a project that I started a week ago, and I've done 5 episodes so far. This is story number 6. And I'm a sales coach and a sales trainer and a sales speaker, but and I've been doing this for 29 years, been speaking and motivating audiences and groups. And over time, you accumulate these stories. You accumulate some cool stories, and sometimes the stories have a little bit more significance than other times, and you kind of want to share those stories, and you end up telling these same stories again and again and again. And one of the stories that I think is particularly good is the story of the 3 trees. The story of the 3 trees. And this is one of the stories that I really, really like. Now, I'm thankful and grateful for those of you who have chosen to take this story time with me. And one of my friends gave me a great suggestion and told me that I get out of here too fast. I need to spend at least 10 minutes. Lordy Jesus. I'm not sure if I'm going to spend 10 minutes tonight or not, but I'm going to get into the story. I'm about ready to start now. It's 9:02. Let's get into it. The story of the 3 trees. Got my hot tea with me. Got my grandpa's sweater on me, so I'm ready to go. The story of the 3 trees. There was these 3 young trees that were on a mountaintop right next to each other, and they kind of became friendly with each other. And one day, one of the trees said to the others, what do you guys want to be when you grow up? When you get big and strong, what do you want them to do with you? And it's like, well, what do you want? And the first tree says, man, I want to hold treasures. I want to be covered in gold. And I want to hold valuable treasures like gold and jewels. I want to be a treasure chest. That's what I want to be, a treasure chest. I want to hold valuable things. That's pretty cool. The second tree says, you know what? As the second tree is looking down the mountain, he noticed that there's a stream down there. And he says, I want to be a giant and a big sailboat. I want to sail the mighty seas and the great oceans. I want to travel the world around great oceans, and I want to carry kings. I want to carry kings as a mighty sailboat. That's what I want to do. I want to sail the mighty seas, and I want to carry kings with me. That's what I want to do. The third tree says, I don't want to be cut down at all. I want to stay right here on this mountain, and I want to become the tallest and strongest tree. I want to be so tall that when people look up at me, they'll look past me and see God. That's what I want. I want people to look up at me and see God. That's what I want. In years past, those 3 trees, they did grow up tall and they did grow up strong. One day a woodcutter came up the mountain and he saw that first tree. He says, what a beautiful tree. This would be perfect for what I want to do with it. So he chopped down that first tree and he took it to a carpenter shop. And the first tree was excited. Oh, I'm at a carpenter shop now. And the carpenter shaped and fashioned that tree into a feed box where animals can eat out of. And he took that tree, that feed box, even while it was still covered in sawdust, he took it to a barn and he put hay in it so that hungry animals can come and eat out of it. And the tree was very disappointed. I'm never going to hold treasure. I'm just going to hold hay so that animals can eat out of me. And the tree was disappointed that he didn't get what he really wanted out of his life. A little while later, another woodcutter went up the mountain, and he saw that second tree. Oh my goodness, this is perfect for what I want. And he chopped down that tree. And he took that tree to a shipping yard, and the tree was excited. This is exactly what I wanted. I'm going to a shipping yard. Yes, I'm going to be made into a sailboat. But that woodcutter that took that tree to the shipyard, they cut up the tree and they fashioned it into a small fishing boat, and then they took it to a lake. And the tree says, oh, I'm not nearly strong enough to sail the high seas. I'm never even going to get to an ocean. I'm going to spend my whole life on this lake here. And he was disappointed that he didn't get what he really wanted out of his life. He was a small fishing boat, not a great sailboat. The third tree was hopeful that no one would ever cut him down because he wanted to keep growing tall and strong. And a little while later, a woodcutter came up that mountain, saw that third tree, barely even looked up at it. He just said, this looks strong enough, and chopped it down. And he took it to a lumber yard. And at the lumber yard, they cut up the tree into long and strong poles. And then he just left it in a pile. And the tree was confused. Why did they even cut me down? They're just going to make me into poles and leave me in a pile with all these other poles. And he was disappointed he didn't get the chance to grow up big and strong like he always wanted to. That first tree, the one covered in sawdust, that had hay in it for other animals to eat. One night, he was aroused and he felt a woman's hand on it. And he saw the woman put a baby that was swaddled in cloth, swaddled in cloth inside of it. That feed box heard the husband say to the wife, I wish I had a crib for this baby. And he heard her say, this manger is perfect for the baby. And it was in that moment that first tree realized, yes, he wasn't made into a treasure chest, but in that moment, he was holding the greatest treasure the world would ever know. And he was happy. That second tree, the one that was fashioned to a small fishing boat, one day, one evening, a bunch of men got on it, and they went out onto the lake. And one of the men was a traveler. He was tired, so he went and took a nap. And as they were out on the lake, a violent storm came, and everybody was scared on the boat. And the boat was thinking, I am not built to carry this many men, and especially not in a storm like this. They woke up the tired traveler, and the traveler got up, stood up, and said, peace. And the storm stopped, and the water stilled. And it was in that moment that small fishing boat realized that that he was carrying right then the King of all kings. He was carrying the King of heaven and earth, and he was happy about that. That third tree that was cut into poles and put into a pile, one day she was roughly dragged out of the pile, and she felt bad. She was dragged through a town. There was angry people yelling at it and all that stuff. And some guys were struggling to carry it. And she felt really, really terrible about this whole thing. And then she felt even ugly because they nailed a man's hands to her. They fashioned her into like a T thing, and they nailed a man's hand to her and stuck him up on a hill. And she was like, what is going on here? This is not what I wanted. And after 3 days, when the sun came up and the ground trembled, that tree realized that whenever anyone ever thought about that tree again, they would be thinking about God, because that's where it happened right there for them. So all 3 trees didn't get what they thought they wanted initially. Up front, they didn't. The moral of the story is, when you don't get what you want, when things don't happen the way you want, sit tight, be patient, because God very well could have something even better for you. That's the story of the 3 trees. I hope you liked the story of the 3 trees. Please, please, please Feel free to share these stories. Share these stories on your Facebook. Share these stories on your YouTube. Share these stories on your LinkedIn. My name is Brian K McNeill, and I'll be back tomorrow. I intend to tell story time with Paul B from Sunday evening to Thursday evening, and I got plenty of stories to tell. So I hope you enjoyed the story time with me today. Be patient because better is on the way. You have a beautiful rest of your evening.